Welcome to this weekly webinar, episode 9 in our welcoming new user series. This one is understanding the Flex Scheduler on an innovation that I am super excited about. My name is Jake Vanskoy. I am the head of training here at JMC. Prior to joining JMC, I was an instructional coach that worked very closely with our MTSS program. So I suppose that's why the Flex Scheduler means so much to me specifically. Prior to that, I was a teacher at a small school in Eastern Iowa for a number of years. So spent my entire life in education, 22 years or so, 5 of those with JMC, and happy to be hosting this webinar with you today. So, what's on tap for today? Looking for an easier way to manage MTSS schedules? The JMC Flex Scheduler has all you need to build your MTSS framework, from enabling it for your building to creating and managing Flex offerings in JMC Office and JMC Teacher. The Flex Scheduler streamlines MTSS practices by giving you the tools that you need to create flexible learning opportunities, support student needs, and simplify attendance tracking. So before we get into this, MTSS, of course, is a multi-tiered system of support in which many schools are implementing, essentially trying to find time in the day to support students where they are at in their learning journey. The multi-tiered aspect of an MTSS system would indicate that you have 3 tiers. Tier 1 would be that universal tier of instruction that all students get, usually as a part of their scheduled course day. And we have the tools to support those things with our scheduling tools in JMC. But now comes along this Tier 2 intervention block. And what we have seen out of our schools and what our schools have noticed is there are some students that are in need of support beyond Tier 1. And they are forced to carve out some time within their existing school day to offer Tier 2 support for those students that either need enrichment or remediation with their learning. And that's why, in part, we developed the Flex Scheduler to allow teachers to utilize the tools and allow office members to utilize the tools that are associated with that Tier 2 intervention. So as always, we have our Q&A feature built right here into Ring Central. So if you have any questions or need to communicate with me, just throw up your hand or ask a question there in that Q&A chat box, and we can talk it out. So implementing the Flex Scheduler starts with the configuring of the Flex Scheduler, beginning with turning it on. Before your school can begin using the Flex Scheduler as a part of its MTSS solution, it must be enabled for each building in JMC Office, or each building that would like it enabled. Once enabled, teachers can schedule individual students or small groups for enrichment or additional support outside of the regular master schedule, setting the foundation for a flexible and effective MTSS program. Setting it up is very simple. We're going to head to File, Online Settings, and we're going to make sure that we're in the appropriate building. So from that switch building drop-down list. And I will say that for the most part, I think Tier 2 intervention and specifically what JMC can assist a Tier 2 intervention with is primarily seen in a middle school or high school setting. Not to say that an elementary doesn't use Tier 2 intervention. Not to say that an elementary couldn't necessarily make use of the Flex Scheduler, but the solutions that the Flex Scheduler is really offering is organizing students into the correct spot with the correct teacher, receiving the correct instruction, and being able to take attendance, because these flex periods usually end up with students moving all over the place from one teacher to the next, and we need a way to keep track of who is where and maybe who has not signed up for an offering or who has signed up for an offering. So you're going to see bits and pieces of this all the way throughout this presentation, but you'll select that building, probably the high school or the middle school. And then step 2 is you'll click the teacher tab at the top of that the page there. Place a check mark in the allow teachers to use flex schedules checkbox at the bottom of the page to enable the flex scheduler in JMC Teacher, and then click that save button to update your changes. And you will go ahead and repeat all of those steps for any building that plans on using the flex scheduler. So we'll take a quick live look at enabling the flex scheduler. I'm in my JMC building here. I only have one building on my site. I'm under File, Online Settings. So again, File, Online Settings. We're going to go over to the Teacher tab. And then all the way at the bottom, we're going to make sure that the Allow Teachers to Use Flex Schedules checkbox is checked. And then we're going to click Save. So that's really all there is to enabling it for use for JMC Teacher. If there aren't any questions, pretty simple step, but an important one. We'll get into creating that flex schedule calendar for your MTSS program. Schools that are incorporating flexible MTSS periods can manage them easily with JMC Office's Flex Scheduler. The Flex Schedule calendar serves as the foundation, allowing schools to create multiple flex periods across days, weeks, or months to meet intervention needs. Setting up the calendar is quick and straightforward. You simply name your intervention, choose the dates, and set the time period for your offerings. This simple first step opens the door for teachers to provide flexible learning opportunities that help close gaps and extend student growth. To start creating your Flex Schedule calendar, we're going to head to File, Flex Schedule Calendar here in JMC Office. So File, Flex Schedule Calendar. And again, when we're thinking of this step, this is for the entire intervention. Okay, so that, all of your teachers are going to have offerings that fall underneath this umbrella of the intervention. And you might have a couple different kinds of intervention. You might have an intervention that's based solely on remediation. You might have one that's based solely off of extension. And you might even choose to use an intervention block or even a flex calendar entry for things like class meetings and things of that nature. So step one, we're going to double click a date on this calendar to begin scheduling a flex period. Step two, we'll enter a name or brief description in the subject field to define the intervention. So this is where, everybody kind of has the name for their intervention block, whether it be buck time or plainsman hour or, Spartan time or Titan time. That's what you would enter in that subject area. Step three, enter a start and end time in the appropriate fields to create a calendar entry. And then step four, an important step for enabling this for period attendance, you'd select a class period from the period drop-down list to enable teachers to record period attendance for flex offerings that are linked to that intervention. Another major benefit of the flex scheduler is allowing teachers to keep track of which students are attending their interventions and which are not. Step five, we'll select an option from the repeat every drop-down list to set how often your flex periods repeat and enter a number in the occurrences field to specify how many times it should repeat. So if your flex offering is something that you do daily, you would select that daily, and that's going to repeat the flex schedule period for every day for the set number of occurrences. So the way that I like to set this up was I just went 2 weeks at a time. So it wouldn't clutter things for students and teachers. We would set up our intervention block for 2 weeks, and it went daily with the exclusion of Mondays. So we went Tuesday through Friday. So I set it up to repeat 5 times, or actually 4 times starting with Tuesday. Then I'd skip to the next week and set the same thing up again for another 4 times. You could also do it weekly. Some schools might only have an intervention block, 1 day a week, or the way that the MTSS period is structured, you might have Monday might be your science, math interventions. Tuesday might be your reading, social studies interventions, so if you have interventions for a variety of purposes throughout the day, you might set weekly interventions too. And the same with monthly, those will just repeat every month on the same day for the number of occurrences that you enter there. Step 6, you'll click Save to update your intervention calendar. And let's take a live look at setting that calendar. So we've already enabled it. We're under File, Flex Schedule Calendar. And you'll notice right out the bat, I already have some flex schedules set up, or some flex time set up. You know, I've got one for today and I've got one for this Friday. To create an entry, I just double click a date, enter a subject. So that's my intervention, my name of my intervention. The start time and end time, probably going to happen on the same day. We can go from maybe 12:30 to 1:30. That's my intervention block. And the time doesn't necessarily matter so much as the period, if you are taking attendance by period. What the time allows you to do is, you know, if you have multiple interventions that happen throughout the day, you can set the times of those interventions, and then we'll set the period associated with that intervention block. And then if I want it to repeat, I can set daily for the next 3 days, for example. Okay, so the one that I'm going to be working out of actually for this demonstration is going to be Plainsman Hour on the 24th of October. But I've already set that up. It's just a one-time, one-shot deal for fifth period on that Friday. If there aren't any questions, we'll get into the fun stuff, which is the offerings themselves. So now the real meat and potatoes of the Flex Scheduler. In JMC Office, you can create course offerings and assign students to the flex periods set up in your school's Flex Schedule calendar. Once the calendar is ready, you can name each offering, assign a teacher and room, set capacity limits, and choose whether the offering is open to all students or private to selected ones. Then place students into offerings, lock them in place, or view the sessions they've selected or been assigned to, helping every student get the right support at the right time through JMC's Flex Scheduler. So to create and assign students to an offering for the Flex Scheduler, we're going to head to File, Flex Schedules. So we're under File, Flex Schedules, and all of our calendar entries are right here under Flex Times. We are going to select a scheduled intervention block from the Flex Times box to add an offering for that specific block. Step 2, we're going to click the Add Offering link to create a new offering in the Flex Schedule, or select an existing one from the My Offerings box to edit an offering. And I have to add here, teachers can also create offerings, and it might even be more effective or efficient for your school to have your teachers create offerings. I know many administrators and instructional coaches that take on the responsibility of creating the offerings for their teachers. And that's very nice of you. It's something that you absolutely can do yourselves, or you can invite your teachers to do it, and we'll be showing you how teachers can create these offerings as well. In any event, this is a great place to review the offerings that have been created by your teachers, because when they create offerings, they will populate in this list as well. And then you can go back and edit those and add students to those offerings from the office end if you would like. To create or edit an entry or an offering, we select a teacher from that teacher drop-down list to assign a teacher to that offering. We'll name the offering in that name field there to help students distinguish it from offerings created by other teachers. Another benefit of the Flex Scheduler, students can actually sign themselves up for offerings, which is a major component of an MTSS system, where the goal is to get students to take ownership of their own learning. And if they have the opportunity to choose the areas in which they need help or assistance, that is enabling them or I should say empowering them to advocate for their own learning. So we'll show off how this works on the JMC student end as well here a little bit later on. Helpful tip: creating an MTSS flex period Name it after the skill or topic you'll be teaching during the flex period. For example, research paper help, geometry, or Civil War review to indicate the focus of the intervention. And those of you that are well versed in MTSS intervention and Tier 2 intervention knows that it goes beyond just assistance with a course or homework completion. Really, the goal of that is to identify skills where students are maybe struggling or where there are gaps in their learning, and hyper focus on those individual skills to help bridge that gap for those students. So when naming the offering or creating the offering, it might be helpful and also liberating for your teachers, because multiple teachers can help with individual skills. Especially I think we have 4 math teachers in the high school, and any of them can help out with one concept in algebra. Whereas, if we're just going in for homework help, it's kind of exclusive to that individual teacher. Step 5, select a room from the room drop-down list to show students where the offering will meet. Step 6, enter a number in the capacity field to limit how many students can register for the offering. Helpful tip, place a check mark in the offering private to selected students checkbox to hide the offering from the list of available options in JMC students. So 2 very important pieces here. The capacity would prevent too many students from flooding one room. Not to say that teachers couldn't assign more students to that offering if they see fit, but this just prevents unwanted students from signing up for an offering. And then the same with those private offerings. If you have an offering that I just need to see these 5 kids and only these 5 kids, you can make that offering private to those selected students, and then lock those students into that offering so that they cannot change. And we'll get to that here in just a second. Fun fact, only selected students can view private offerings, making this a great tool for targeted support such as special education interventions. Step 7, select a radio button to narrow the displayed list of students in the available students box. You can choose by grades to filter students by a specific grade level, or you could choose advisees to display only your assigned advisees or only the teacher's assigned advisees. Step 8, click a student's name from the list of available students to add them to the offering. Helpful tip, place a check mark in the lock checkbox next to a student's name to prevent them from choosing a different offering during the current intervention. So the lock box right here next to a student's name that's been selected for an offering would prevent students from removing themselves from that offering. And we're going to talk about the communication that's involved with an MTSS system and fostered by JMC here in just a minute when we take our live look. Fun fact, when a student is assigned to an offering, they appear on other teachers' available students list with the status of selected by, locked by, or student selected to show intervention priority and urgency. And that's a little bit about what I was just talking about. I'll explain it more in the live look, but that's really the communication piece that's vital to this MTSS system. Step 9, click the Save button to add the offerings or to add the offering and students to the offering list, or click the Close button to discard the new offering. Step 10, this is an optional step, but if you want to provide the availability for the offer for students to sign up for an offering, we're going to enter dates and times, or just click the calendar and alarm clock icons in the student access to offering field to set the window of time that students can add themselves to an offering. Fun fact, by default, the date and time fields are set to the same value, which disables the student access window and prevents students from signing themselves up to an offering. So a couple different ways schools handle students signing themselves up for offerings in the MTSS period or in the Flex Scheduler. A lot of schools choose not to allow students right away, and they put the onus on the teachers to get the students in the right spot. And this is easily disabled So if it by default, as a matter of fact, if these values are the same, so if this said 10:13, 8 a.m. and this said 10:13, 8 a.m., students would not have access to change that offering. Some schools choose to allow their students a window of time that they can register themselves for an offering. So for example, Monday morning from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., you have the opportunity to sign yourselves up for the flex offering that you choose. After 11 a.m., we're going to choose it for you, but it gives you that window of time, and you can set that window of time so you don't have to enable it and disable it manually. Helpful tips: select an offering and click the copy offering link to duplicate it and or its student rosters for an upcoming intervention block, or click the delete offering link to remove it from your list. So if you have an offering that repeats every day, or to multiple flex times, you can easily copy that offering and those student rosters. I know the school that I worked with prior to joining JMC, our intervention block, we went weekly, and students were locked into an intervention offering Tuesday through Friday. So those repeated, and that copy function would allow you to copy students from one offering to the next day and create that same offering essentially 4 times throughout the week. Step 11, click that print button to print a copy of the roster for the currently selected offering, or click the export button to export it to a CSV file. Helpful tip: click the students not in an offering link in the offerings box to view all students who have not registered themselves or have been assigned by a teacher to a flex offering. So this list is your students that will need something to do during that flex offering. So you can choose to send those students to a study hall, or you can manually put those students into an offering, or print out that list and do what you need to do with it. So let's take a live look at creating offerings for your scheduled flex period in JMC Office here. Orient us by going back home. We're under File, Flex Schedules now. So File, Flex Schedules. And I'm just going to select my Friday offering that I created, or my Friday intervention block, which is my Plainsman hour here from this list. And you'll notice I have a few offerings that have already been created by teachers. So I've got 3 offerings that have been created by teachers. So I can select one of these offerings and I can edit the details of the offering by clicking this edit offering link. So with the teacher's already been created, I could change the name of it. I can add students to that offering, or I can remove students as needed. To create a new offering, I'm just going to click this add offering link. I select the teacher. I name the offering. So this is where I could go scientific exploration. Select the room, and a nice little handy thing, it'll show the rooms that are in use. So the available rooms, especially if you're flexible enough to allow your teachers to move around. You set your capacity, as I said there before. I probably don't want 56 students in there, but maybe 15. And then I can make that offering private to selected students. I am just going to make this offering private to select a few selected students. And I'm just going to select those students right here from the list. Part of that communication piece that I mentioned before, students that have already been selected into an offering will have that list right next to their name, or listed right next to their name. So Abby, for example, has been selected by Mr. V for research prep. And part of that communication that I was talking about, your teachers are going to see this too when they are selecting their students. This is where it's nice to have a conversation leading into your implementation of the Flex Scheduler to let teachers know how they can handle the certain designations. So if a student's been selected by, I would say that teacher wants to see Abby. But if I were a math teacher or a science teacher and I see that she's signed up for research prep, and she's failing my class, and I absolutely need to see her because she's got some significant gaps and we've got some testing coming up and she needs to know these concepts, I can override Mr. V's selection just by clicking her name. Now, she came off of Mr. V's list and is now on Mrs. Black's list, and that's really where a conversation needs to happen between your teachers as to, you know, who's got priority and who should have priority over viewing that student. You know, the locked by option is just another way to indicate priority or urgency of an intervention. You know, if I'm a teacher and I've selected this student and I really need to see this student because this student is possibly in danger of failing a class, or, you know, something along those lines, the locked would indicate a greater urgency. Now, I could still override that from a teacher's end. A student couldn't override it, but the teacher in the office can override it. And that's just where some of that communication becomes vital between office staff and teachers, and, you know, who really needs to see kids, and who can maybe get by a week or a flex time without seeing that student. So simply select the student, and I'm just going to lock these students into the offering here, and I'm going to click save. So my offerings list will show the students that have been selected for an intervention, and then I've got my students not in offerings list to show me all the students that have yet to be placed in an intervention. And I can export this list or print it off for my future reference here. The last piece, and I don't think this was mentioned in our steps here, but this email button will actually email students that are, you know, selected right here, whether or not they have been selected for an offering and where that offering would be, what room number, what teacher, and what that offering's for, as part of a communication piece from the office to the students. So, there any questions? We're going to show this from the teacher side, which is not a lot different from the office side. But a few more things that we can add and a few more features in the office side. Unless there are any questions, we'll keep motoring right through to managing flex scheduler offerings in JMC Teacher. Starting with adding course offerings to the flex periods in JMC Teacher. So flex offerings in JMC Teacher are customized sessions created for your school's MTSS intervention block, allowing you to organize and manage targeted support opportunities for students. By creating an offering, you can control the content, location, and size of each session, keeping interventions focused, organized, and effective. This helps close learning gaps, extend student growth, and make the most of your intervention time so every student gets the support that they need. To create an offering in JMC Teacher, we're going to head to Edit Flex Schedules, and step one, we'll select the flex time or select the intervention block from the flex times box to add an offering for that specific block. So very similar to the office view, we've got our list of flex times. The options are a little bit narrowed, and actually there are a couple different options in the teacher side. Again, you can click that add offering to create an offering, and the steps are not much different. You would name the offering, you would select a room, you would enter a capacity, and then you could make that offering private to selected students. And I'm going to show how that works on the student end here in a live look in just a minute. But making that offering private to selected students is going to keep that offering invisible on the student selection portion. Fun fact, only selected students can view the private offering, which is what I just said. Step 6, select a radio button to narrow the displayed list of students available in the available students box. So you can filter by grade as you could in the office version. The teacher version allows you to filter by courses, so you can show only students that are enrolled in one of your courses. The advisees, again, will show a list of your advisees only. And then the other option not available on the office end is the rosters. So teachers can actually save rosters that they use frequently and then select that or use that rosters radio button to select a group of students or select from a group of students that they regularly see. So, I think a lot of times during intervention periods, National Honor Society or Student Council or FFA might meet, and they might have a core group of students that they meet with, like officers, let's just say. My FFA director or my student council leader can create a roster of their FFA students or their student council officers, and then they can use that rosters button just to quickly have access to that narrowed range of students. Fun fact, a status of selected by, locked by, or selected students may appear next to the names of students on the available student list to show intervention availability and priority. And we talked about that just a second ago. But I would add that many schools arrange their interventions or their MTSS periods so that they prioritize certain subject areas on certain days. So I think I mentioned before, you might have a math day where math teachers get to lock students into an offering, and this is a way to communicate that right here. So all of these students are selected by, I know they've been selected by, I do have free reign to override them if needed, but that should come with a communication to the teacher that had originally selected them as well. Click a student's name to add them to the list or from the list of available students to the offering, and then that optional lock checkbox there would prevent a student from choosing a different offering in JMC Student. Helpful tip, need to schedule a student who's already been requested or locked. You can still select them, just coordinate with the teacher who made the original request to keep things running smoothly. Step 9, click the Save button to add the offering and students to the My Offerings list, or close to discard your new offering. Helpful tip, select an offering and click the Copy Offering link to duplicate it and its student roster for an upcoming intervention block, or click the Delete Offering to remove your offering from the list. Step 10, click the Print button to print a copy of the roster for the currently selected offerings. And let's take a live look at adding course offerings from JMC Teacher. So again, here I'm in JMC Office. I'm going to flip over to JMC Teacher here. And it's not much different, but we've got a couple of those extra options. So I'm going to go to Edit, Flex Schedules. And I'm going to choose my Plainsman hour again. And here I'm only seeing my offerings in this list. I see the students that I've either selected or locked to my offering right there. I can click Edit Offering, and I can edit some of the details like capacity or whether or not it's private to selected students, or here's where I can select students. And I'm noticing that there are a number of students that have already been selected into an offering. If I need to select a student, I can just click their name and that adds them to the selected students list. And I'll click Save here. Couple of fun little tools. This rosters tool here, if I click that roster, it's going to allow me to select from my list of rosters, and here are all of the students, and I actually have selected over some of my students from that roster. But this is a nice handy little tool. I'm going to go over here and go to student rosters, and this is just allowing me to create a roster of students. So if I wanted to create a new roster, and let's just say I have a group of students that really are going to need help through this research project. I can choose those students that are going to be my somewhat frequent flyers, if you will. Just grab them over there, and then I'll click Save. And now when I go to edit an offering or add a new offering and choose rosters, I've got my research project roster available, and I can see all of the students that have that would be on that roster if I haven't already selected them. I can also see who has already selected those students. So there are a couple students that haven't been selected by anybody, and then a lion's share of those students have already been selected. Again, you can copy the offering. So if I wanted to, say copy this offering to the 1029 flex time, click that copy offering link, and I can determine which offering I'm going to copy them to. So there's my 1029. And then I can choose to copy all of the students from the offering. I could choose to copy the locked students only, or I could choose to copy none of the students and just copy the details of the offering. So for this, I'm going to copy none of the students over. I'm going to click save, and that's going to copy my research prep to the upcoming flex time. And again, there would be no students with that, but that's a quick and easy shortcut if you don't want to manually create those offerings over and over again. Again, to delete an offering, I can click that link. It's going to remove the offering from my offerings list. And another piece that I don't think was in the presentation there is the staff offerings. So this page also allows you to see the various offerings by staff members and see the available students and the students on their list. So teachers can also, oops, I'm sorry, make selections, flex schedules. For other staff offerings here. So I could add a student to another staff member's offering if I needed to. So, a lot of, there are some, I should say, MTSS processes where you have an advisor group of students, and it's your job as the advisor to check and see which interventions your advisees have been selected to. And if they haven't been selected, or if they have not signed up for an offering, you need to make sure that they get selected. So this is something that can be done and managed on the teacher end as well. It's just that staff offerings link, kind of another handy little tool, a very new addition to our flex schedule. And the last thing that I want to show you during this live look is what it looks like from the student end. All right, so I'm going to log into JMC Student here. And show you what they see of flex schedules from their end. So I'm going to go to flex schedules, again, I'm JMC Student, and I'm going to choose the upcoming plane hour. And so here's how students would interface with this. Students can see all of the offerings. If you remember at the top of this presentation, I created an offering and hid it, or made it private to selected students. So there were actually four offerings for this intervention block. But my students, or the student, since he wasn't selected in this offering, will only see 3. So the student can then select the offering that they want to be a part of. Let's say, oh, okay, religious studies is almost at capacity. I better hurry up and get signed up for that. And when I choose them selected, it'll be highlighted in yellow for my reference, and then it'll also be on my teacher's list. I'm also going to show what this looks like if a teacher locks a student. So jump into my teacher account here real quick. You go to edit flex schedules and edit my offering here. James Asith, and now I see students signed up. So this student signed up for religious studies, and you know what? I really need to see this student actually. So I'm going to lock him into my offering. And now the student on their end would see, I'm going to refresh. And now the student sees that he's locked into Mr. V, teacher locked, yes. There's no way for me to go and choose a different offering now as a student. So students can be made, we could indicate easily where students should be, and they can be made aware of this by logging into JMC Student, heading to Flex Schedules. So handy communication piece. On the teacher end, another handy communication piece is we can email folks where they're signed up or where they should be going. It's going to email the date, time, the intervention hour, and then my offering right there. Enter my reply to, and that just emails to let students know that they've been selected. And using the message center, we can also select a flex offering and message primary contacts by email or both if we want to let families know who's been selected for what. So a couple very nice options there for communication. And the last piece here, I'm going to try to limp on home, is viewing a list of flex offerings. So this is also from JMC Teacher. The selected flex offerings report in JMC Teacher provides a clear snapshot of every flex session available during a specific flex time, showing each teacher's offering, capacity, and available spaces. By putting all flex offerings in one place, this report helps schools manage their MTSS plans more effectively, making it easy to match students with the right interventions or enrichment opportunities, balance group sizes, and help every student get the support that they need at the right time. So I showed you the list of student offerings. If I go back to the flex schedule, so we have the staff offerings quick link right down here, and this will show each staff member and allow you to interact with it. We have a report also, which is what we're going to show you just now, of the offerings that are available. So a little bit more information all on one page. We're going to head to edit scheduled flex offerings in JMC Teacher. We'll select that date or that flex period right here from the flex times list. And then helpful tip, view all available offerings, including the teacher, room number, name, capacity for a given flex period to help guide students toward the opportunity that best fits their needs. We can print this list by clicking that print button and use that to help get our students into the right intervention. So really quick, we'll take a live look at this report. It's under Edit, Scheduled Flex Offerings. You can choose the flex offering here, and here's the list, the total list of offerings, the rooms, the teacher names, the capacities, and the number of students enrolled. So we got a couple different ways that we can see what students, or what teachers have available. You can use this page and you could actually sign students up for offerings themselves, or you could use that scheduled flex offering page just to view a list of all the offerings that are available to students. So that is the last thing that I had to show you about the Flex Scheduler. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, this is a wrap. So thank you for joining us for this weekly webinar. We thank you for choosing JMC, and we will catch you on the flip side.